This is KPPQ-LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the Women's Room, where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good. My guest today is Arcelia Martinez, who is artist in residence at the Oxnard Performing Arts Center in Oxnard. She is a filmmaker, and I've asked her here to the Women's Room today to talk about the documentary film she is making about young Latina women, for which she has received an Arts Council grant. We're so happy to have you here today, Arcelia.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Kathleen.
Oh, you're welcome. First of all, congratulations for receiving an Arts Council grant. I'd like to talk about your career choice of being a filmmaker, your observations on the cultural issues of Latina teens, and how your sensitivity to these issues led you to creating the Esperanza Project. Now, you have a degree in filmmaking from UC Northridge. I was wondering how you decided to become a filmmaker. Did you decide consciously, or did you take advantage of opportunities as they came up? Did you want to be a filmmaker as a young girl?
Definitely. Thank you. That's a loaded question, so I'll break it down in parts for everybody.
Okay.
First, the university is a CSU university, not a UC, so it's Cal State University Northridge.
Oh, okay.
There's a little difference in the way that they categorize them. But yeah, I did go to Cal State University of Northridge, and I got my filmmaking degree from there. But it was not a straight path, right? Some people have a straight path. Mine has not been. It's been an interesting route to get there. I made the conscious choice when I was 25 to study film, to get into filmmaking. But if I look back, there have been hints in my life that this was going to be my life. But a big chunk of it, there was just life happening. Life was just happening, and I was not listening to the signs. So at 25, I finally decided, what do I want to do? What do I want to have fun with? What do I want to learn more about? And it also coincided with seeing a flyer about filmmaking at Oxnard College and a festival. And I was studying bookkeeping accounting at the time because, my father said it's a good career, it's a safe career, why don't you do that? It obviously has to do with money, and we don't come from money, so let's make it happen. So like any good daughter, you listen to your parents and you say, okay, I'll do that. Well, I wasn't quite happy. I was not happy. But I kept studying, I kept working in the banking industry, and I just wasn't happy, and something was off. And one day I see this flyer, and I was trying to get somebody to go with me. Hey, there's a film festival happening at Oxnard College. Come on, let's go. Nobody could go. Nobody was interested. Nobody had the time. So it was one of those moments where if it's really important to you, you're going to make it happen. And I think I was just a little shy and kind of, scared of that new industry. And I wanted a buddy, but there were no buddies available.
So you had to be independent.
So I had to make the choice, be independent, and I showed up. And what I felt when I arrived was a sense of community and belonging, and people who understood me. I think I finally felt like I belonged somewhere. So there went my new trajectory. However, when I say that, hints were there when I was young, but I think the teenagers are very difficult, and when things are happening, you kind of lose track of paying attention sometimes if things are distracting you. So when I was young, first and foremost, I lived above a movie theater.
Oh, that's a sign.
Exactly. Secondly, I remember a vivid memory. I was in third grade, and we went to the library, and I grabbed a book. It looked fun. The cover looked fun. And it was a book about Steven Spielberg and directing. And I thought, that looks fun. It just stayed with me. That memory stayed. So move on to just kind of living. Other little things that piqued my interest and stayed in my memory were the singer Selena, the Latina female singer, Mexican American. Just kind of seeing her, and she was my reference point to a female in the industry. Sing and dance, and I didn't do any of that. So I thought, you have to be a singer or a dancer to be in the film industry, right? Actors. So it just didn't click to me at the time when I was young that was something I could do.
Oh.
But the book of Steven Spielberg stayed in my mind, right? He was the director, he was behind the camera. However, it just didn't click for me until, again, when I was 25, and I said, wait a minute, I don't have to be in front of the camera. I can also be behind it. And so it was just like one of those things that I had all these ideas or things that happened when I was little that kind of told me where I was going to be, but I wasn't listening.
Okay, well, that was a great answer. You took us right through there. I'm just going to move on, though, to you. What was your favorite or the closest to your heart project that you have worked on?
I definitely, in the trajectory of community college and Northridge and independent projects, there's two that stick out. One of them I did while I was at Oxnard College, and that was a short documentary style film I call Latinos and Sex Education. So that one was solely a class project. And I feel that was when my voice started to come out. I was focusing on the Latino community. I was focusing on something that isn't talked about, which in this case was sex education. We kind of just learn it from school, and good luck.
From the other kids.
Yeah. Or from other kids, relatives, like cousins, little kid cousins, and you're like, oh, what? So all of a sudden, I'm putting two things that are important to me together, and they're in a documentary style film. Then move forward, graduate college, and I found myself in between college and university wanting to continue to make pieces, and I made a short film called Isabel Mi Historia, which was for a specific purpose. There was a local female empowerment, female voice festival happening called Las Contemporáneas.
Do you want to translate the title of your film?
Isabel, My Story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Isabel, Mi Historia. Isabel, My Story. And the topic of this narrative short film, was about the lack of communication between mother-daughter. And the festival wanted Latina female issues as the forefront of these pieces. So I thought, hey, let's do something that's kind of a little bit common, unfortunately, in the Latino community. You have young girls getting pregnant very early, and, some of them might not have support at home. So I kind of put that stereotype in there, but the center of it was the lack of communication. Things happen, if you end up pregnant or not, things happen. But the issue was, who can these girls go to? And in this case, in the short film, this young girl felt like she could not communicate with her single mother about her literally unwanted pregnancy. It was not an accident. It wasn't her trying to get pregnant. It was someone who kind of took advantage of her, and she ends up pregnant. She can't confide. She doesn't feel she can confide in her mom, so she takes matters into her own hands. But of course, life has its own way of taking care of things for you. And so, that story unfolds. And those two are very, again, important to me because they centered around things that were important to me. So which was Latino community, communication, just general sex education, the way that the Latinos communicate. And then what do we communicate about, or what don't we? And so those two stayed in my heart because I realized they were key for me to go back and see, what am I really writing about when no one's forcing me to do anything?
Right. So actually, my next question was, what kinds of messages do you want to get out there, especially to women? And I think you've answered that, unless you want to put a little codicil on it.
I'll
Yeah.
add a little cherry on top.
Yeah.
Definitely, again, with those, I feel my purpose is empowering, right? The female Latina voice in specific. Now, take it back a little bit. I want to empower Latinos in general.
Uh-huh.
I've found many of my stories have to do with ranch life, with immigration, with low-income families, with like being Mexican and what that is, or being Mexican American and what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the decoration of the cake. I like to use the metaphor analogy of filmmaking as in baking a cake, and all of that, the culture, the identity, is the decoration, but ultimately empowering someone, giving them a voice, making them feel like someone's listening. Because it was very helpful to me when I came across stories in the industry where I related. It had, regardless of what color the person was on the movie, regardless of what income the person had in the movie, if it was that universal truth of something, I recall how good it felt.
Uh-huh.
And a message I would like to send to everybody, especially young females, is be kind to yourself, because this world is rough and we need to be kind to ourselves rather than sometimes wait for other people to do that for us. And it'll get us through, right? Whatever
Okay.
obstacle we're going.
Okay. So when we talked previously, you mentioned observations you have made, some from your own experience, about the traditional Latino cultural expectations for teenage girls. What are some of these expectations, and how are you, or how have you observed other Latino girls being affected by cultural norms?
Great question. And it's in our community, specifically from what I've seen with my relative, myself, women, we're very traditional culture where the man goes outside and works and provides, and the female stays at home and takes care of family. So you, by virtue of your body type, gender, you are categorized as a caregiver. You're female, you're a caregiver. That's your job.
Uh-huh.
You are, since you're very young, you're practicing these things. I only had one younger sibling, and one older sibling. So I was in charge of my younger sibling. And as you're doing these things, as a female, you're also told to just do it. No fuss, no muss about it. Don't complain. Don't get emotional. Just do your job, which is to care for the younger ones.
And since you're not supposed to get emotional about it, there probably was very little outlet for your sort of loneliness, perhaps taking care of younger siblings. Is this true? And who can a young girl turn to?
Absolutely, right? So we have friends. Everybody has friends. However, in my case, if anything was going on, I didn't feel comfortable telling my friends.
Oh,
A Latino family, you do have large families. Everybody knows what's going on, and some families more than others. Some of them are pretty quiet. But, and even if you see them all the time, sometimes, again, certain things that may be going on are not comfortable to talk about. So though you have a large family and you may see them or not often, it doesn't mean that the foundation for good communication is there. So if
hmm.
something is happening, or you just feel lonely and you're just wanting to kind of not feel that anymore, sometimes you're not going to talk to them, and you continue to feel that way.
Uh-huh. So,
So
it's sort of like there aren't any words maybe for that type of communication.
mhm.
It's a special kind of communication. Now, you mentioned that you were feeling depressed yourself as a teen, and you went to the doctor. What did the doctor respond with?
Well, I definitely want to kind of point out, I there, like you just said, there are no words for it, right? There,
Yeah,
it's
go ahead.
difficult. So as a teen, I didn't understand. I had no concept of the word of depression.
Oh,
What happened when I found out about it was I went to a routine checkup. I was going to play soccer and you had to go get a physical.
uh-huh.
Okay. The doctor says, hey, do you find yourself crying at times? Matter of fact, yeah, I do. And mind you, he asked my mom to leave the room. But then he just says, okay, well, I'm going to prescribe you antidepressants. I'm sitting there going, excuse me?
That seems kind of drastic.
Exactly. So, but I don't know any different. I'm taught he's an elder. You respect what they say. You don't talk back. You don't question it. Okay. All right. I take them home. Now here's that I don't know. I'm sure my mom had to know that I got them prescribed. She had to know these things because she was there. However, I didn't feel like I needed them. So I didn't take them. I took them home, but I didn't take them. Again, I felt like if this doctor would have just asked a couple more questions, maybe he would have found out, okay, maybe she just needs to see a therapist, get some coping skills going. Teenage years are a very interesting time, more for some than others.
Right.
Maybe you just need a little extra coping, right, techniques. But he didn't ask anything else. He just said, this is what I'm going to do, go for it. And
right.
I was not the kind of person, by that age, I already knew I like to take care of my body. I don't like to put stuff in it that is not needed, that is not natural. So to me, pills were just out of the question.
Oh. Well, I'm going to ask you to leave it there for a moment because we have to take a station ID. This is KPPQ-LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the Women's Room, where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good. My guest today is Arcelia Martinez, who is an artist in resident at the Oxnard Performing Arts Center. She is a filmmaker, and she is here today to talk about the Esperanza Project. Okay, and we're back. And we were just talking about having pills described, and you obviously found some other ways to deal with teenage depression. Could you tell your listener what you did or what you found?
Yes. Like I said, made that conscious choice of not taking pills, but I didn't really know I was making a conscious choice I'm going to go look at other things as an alternative. I was just, okay, that's not on my radar, and kind of kept on moving and living. Luckily, I came across a martial arts class being taught across from my high school. So convenience was a savior, maybe. And I joined martial arts, did Taekwondo for I think the last 2 years of my high schooling. And looking back, that definitely helped because it gave me a place to be. It gave me skills, to feel more comfortable about myself. It gave me people to meet. It got me out of a school routine.
Right, which is maybe why you were feeling kind of down, because you were just staying at home.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, when you're not allowed to go out, when you don't have sisters, very few Latino families have small a group of families. So, you find 5, 6, 7 more. But I think in my generation, we've kind of made these families smaller and smaller. And so I was one of these families who didn't have many siblings. I'm the only daughter. So you're the only one that's going to take on all of those caregiving responsibilities. And if you need to caregive, you can't go out. You have to stay home. You have to watch your brother, help with the dishes, do this, do that, and then add your homework.
Right. No wonder. So who mentored you in your filmmaking career? Who are your heroes?
That's a beautiful question. I was definitely trying to see kind of what's happened, and I definitely again feel like Spielberg is one of them, because he was my earliest understanding of what kind of filmmaking was and movie making.
You read his book?
Yeah. and but I want to kind of bring it back home a little bit locally in terms of career-wise. I met a man who, I met him at the beginning of that decision to be a filmmaker. And I feel that had I met anybody else, I don't know if I would have stayed in the industry. And I'm not sure if you know him. He's out there. He's got his own films going. He's local to Ventura County. This is Lorenzo De Stefano.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's widely known.
Uh-huh.
And I met him as a volunteer for the Ventura Film Society when I started my filmmaking career. The most giving filmmaker I've ever met, kind, patient, such a good leader.
Oh.
And I feel that thankfully he was put in my path so that I could continue this journey, because it can be a very difficult journey and a very abusive journey. And he has been just the opposite of any bad rumors out there.
Uh-huh.
And I'm very, very thankful that I came across him locally. So I have my national hero, Spielberg. And now, as I'm getting more into it, I have female heroes,
and
heroes.
Role models.
Yes, yes.
We're going to have to wait to hear about those maybe in a subsequent, because I do want to get to the Esperanza Project.
Absolutely.
And how you came to it. And it's because of your experiences and observations about culture, identity, and isolation, you came up with a project to help young Latina girls.
Yes.
Now, could you acquaint us with this project you have named the Esperanza Project, for which you got a grant? So for our listener, just tell us how you put this together.
Yes. I met Carolyn at the Oxnard Performing Arts Center a couple of years ago after I graduated CSUN here in Oxnard. And we worked together on the Sight Plus Sound Film Festival that happened in 2019. After that, I, as a filmmaker, okay, well, what's next? I'm questioning what's next with my life. What do I do? And here she comes very nonchalantly. Hey, let's write a grant. What do you want to do? Let's do a residency. And I go, what? It just was not at the top of my, not even within the scope of my understanding. So I said, okay, let me see. I wanted to do something that mattered purposefully to me, because when you take on a project, especially a documentary, it could take years. So I thought about it, and ultimately decided mental health was definitely at the top of my list. Not just for the things I've experienced, but what I've seen family members go through. And again, it was like a light bulb moment. Hey, that's something that we don't talk about all the time, especially in Latino culture. So it was key that she approached me and offered this kind of safe haven to think about it and bring something to the table without judgment.
Okay, well, let's just have you translate Esperanza, so our listener, especially our non-Spanish speaking listener, knows the project that you're talking about. And so what does Esperanza mean?
Esperanza translated is hope.
Right.
And
so you want to bring hope to young girls and young women. So, and you're doing this by means of delightful little charlas. Perhaps you could explain what charlas means and then tell us about them.
Charlas literally is a slang for conversations, just talks, chit-chat.
Oh, okay.
Our project is the Esperanza Project, and it has something called Sin Vergüenza Charlas, which is translated to without shame chit-chats, conversations. And these are art-based group meetings. Once a month, we put on these meetings for a group of teen Latinas, anywhere between 13 to 19, and we bring a guest artist from the community.
Oh, cool.
We've had a painter, we've had a sign maker, we're going to have a mental health advocate, and she focuses on she has her own business making candles, Angie, and she's going to help us with vision boards. So every month we bring them a new activity from an artist in the community that while they're in this 1 or 2 hour group, these young girls can, one, learn an activity, and two, we help kind of engage the conversation around the topic of mental health in a way where they can at least feel comfortable talking about it if they want to. If not, kind of receive any tips or tricks that, you know, the artists may have, or we have. Because we're not therapy, this is not a group therapy, we cannot do that.
Right.
But it's just a space to kind of repeat the term, right, and get people comfortable with it, which is what the Latino community has trouble with, is making mental health a taboo and then just not talking.
Oh, it's a taboo.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of a sort of natural outcome of being together, making things together, you know, and so the girls start talking, especially with a little input from you.
Yeah. And again, it's not therapy, so we're not probing at anything. We're not saying, well, how do you feel about this? It's just simply, hey, let's talk about self-care. What are the different ways that we do that? Let's talk about what does mental health mean to you, right? So it's just kind of allowing questions that allow them to understand their basic point of view.
Okay, so you mentioned what you call zines, and I thought we should just quickly tell our listener what you mean by that.
So zines they come from like magazines, and people
magazines.
Their own. Yeah. So versus magazines, you have to print them, and you have to, you know, design them and take photos and maybe artwork. But these are a way to take it back a bit, and you make your own. It could be as intricate as an actual magazine. You have a layout on the computer, and you design it, and you take photo shoots, or you do the illustrative artwork. Or it could be as simple as a piece of paper, a pencil, maybe some markers. So we taught them the simple method for this option.
Right. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. And we're sort of running out of time. Just have a few minutes here.
Sure.
Where can listeners learn more about the Esperanza Project at the Oxnard Performing Arts Center? And who is the program open to?
They can learn more about it, like you said, to the OxnardPerformingArts.com website. Under the programs page, you'll find the Esperanza. They can follow our Instagram at the Esperanza Project. They're always welcome to email me. My information is at the OxnardPerformingArts.com webpage. And who is it for? Because the Esperanza Project as a whole has 3 pieces to it: a documentary, the charlas we talked about, and community salons, which are quarterly salons with experts in the industry. It's for everybody. We want everybody to talk about it. This is why this is very important. But of course, for the documentary, we are looking for either families who've lost someone, or young Latinas currently struggling, or older women who had a difficulty at that age. So we're looking for everybody to come forward, and if they're comfortable sharing their story, coming into the events. And if someone's not comfortable, as far as the documentary goes, we will do what we need to keep their privacy for them.
Okay, so you can look up the Esperanza Project at the website for the Oxnard Performing Arts Center. Arcelia, thank you so much for coming in to talk about the isolation of many young Latina women and girls and a remedy you have designed, the Esperanza Project. Please come back and let us know how it's going.
Thank you so much for having us on here. We will update you when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. This is KPPQ-LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the Women's Room, where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good.